To everyone. This is our video for the what was going to be our October 16th video discussion that we had to cancel due to anticipated internet problems as a result of the uncharacteristically stormy October we're having. I hope everyone is well, and I hope you are able to get through the video and understand what you're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. And with that, I'm going to just jump right in. Over in OneNote, you'll notice in your discussion agendas that I've listed Unit 5, October 16th through the 29th information. And we're going to start with, I've made some changes to the assignment schedule. The district revenue project, I've bumped up another week, or really a couple of weeks, to be due November 12th. And I've decided to do this in two parts. And we're going to do part one between now and the next time we meet, and we'll do the final part in the next portion of it. And as a reminder, this activity, for those of you that are interested in continuing to sit for the superintendent's exam and participate in the internship, this activity will count towards hours for that. So make sure you keep record of it. I will keep record of it as well. That way, at least one of us will have that to log into your internship log. I've canceled a couple of the dissertation activities, number 3 and 4. You'll notice that when you go over to the syllabus, which if you recall is up here in resources, and you can see in the syllabus where I have made those changes in the evaluation and grading expectations for the course. You'll also notice that I've changed the grade chart to reflect the perusal that we canceled last week, the video discussions that we've canceled, and the dissertation activities we've canceled. The assignments you'll have for this next couple of weeks is from Chapter 9 and Chapter 10, the federal role in financing education and teacher compensation. And the assignments have already been posted in Blackboard. There are 4 questions, 2 from each chapter related to that, and you'll need to work on those between now and then. I've also included a perusal for this unit. The perusal is an article from former State Representative Kent Grusendorf regarding the original intent, or at least his idea of the original intent of the Texas public school system. I think you'll find it interesting, and I'm interested in seeing your comments on that. And for those of you that may not know, Mr. Grusendorf has been a strong charter school advocate, or really advocate for, I guess you could say, alternative uses for the traditional public school funding, or government-run schools, if you will. But I think his thinking, I think, is pretty good when you read through it. And it gives kind of a historical perspective on what he feels the framers of the Constitution meant when they designed that. Part 1 of the Texas School Finance Revenue Project will involve you doing a revenue calculation for a district that I've assigned to you. And I've selected districts that have some diverse financial characteristics, but it's completely random on who I've assigned them to. So if your name's by a particular district, it has no relevance to necessarily who you are or of an interest. I just simply put everyone's names down and then started listing some districts through that process. And I wanted to make sure, more than likely, you were doing a district that you're not actually working in, because I think it gives a different perspective of the system. And I tried to choose districts with some very diverse characteristics. For example, when you look at Graham, this is going to be a relatively property poor school district in relation to the revenue, or in relation to their student population. Lovejoy and Lake Travis, for example, you're going to find a very wealthy property per student districts. And I would remind you that property wealth per student does not always correlate with wealth in the community with the students. For example, Dallas ISD is a very property wealthy district, but they have well over 90% low income students in their district. So those two don't necessarily coincide. However, sometimes they do. So for example, with Lovejoy and Lake Travis, you're going to have very high property wealth in comparison to student population, but you're also going to have very wealthy population. So sometimes they do coincide, but not always. So these are the districts that I would like you to study. And in the first step of studying the districts, you have an assignment to do. And I'm going to pull up that assignment that's already been posted in your work. And what you're going to be asked to do, pardon me, is you're going to be asked to identify all of these components of the district that you've been assigned. And I'm going to go through the process of how to get that report so you can get this information. But your task between now and the due date is to get that report, which is the Texas Summary of Finance report. And again, I'm going to show you how to get that in just a moment. And begin to fill in these values as you go down through. And you're going to use these values in part 2 of the exercise. And we'll spend time the next time we meet talking about what these things mean. Big picture, the Texas school finance system is designed to provide an equitable distribution of resources. It has several equalization type components within it that in theory and design are to try to even out the playing field to some extent. So even though we complain a great deal about the inequity in the system itself is constantly in at least light revision. Some would argue it needs to go through a complete overhaul, but generally it hasn't changed in major ways at all. But small adjustments have occurred over time, and they're all designed to create some equity. So you're going to fill in all this. So you'll look at refined ADA, adjusted allotment. Sometimes, by the way, that's called adjusted basic allotment. I just put an adjusted allotment there for our purposes. SPED meaning special education, and these are all the instructional arrangements of special education. And educators that are familiar with special education probably will recognize a lot of these instructional arrangements. One of the things I think you'll get out of this is really seeing how the student population itself impacts the amount of revenue you get as you move through. And then I want you to identify all of these other amounts from your report. So that's the biggest part of part 1 is identifying those values. And then when we move to part 2, that way you'll have those values right in front of you. You won't have to search through that summary of finance document. So because there's a lot of information to it, as you'll see in just a moment. So with that, I want to go back to, so well, how do you find this stuff? Well, first go to the TEA website and go to Finance and Grants, and you'll notice down here under Finance and Grants, the Summary of Finances information. Click on that, and then you'll see down here where the Summary of Finances link to report page is what you want. And you'll notice you can select a report. Now, there will be numerous types of reports underneath here. Now, let me back up just a little bit to kind of show you what you're about to be downloading. Every school district has a report that it's kind of like the IRS or the Internal Revenue Service document of what you're generating, or in some cases, what you're expected to generate, and then what you actually do generate at the end. We call this report the Summary of Finance, and it encompasses the entire state and local funding system for funding the schools, minus one thing. It does not include those revenues that are generated locally, like through gate receipts at ball games, PTAs, local activity funds, foundations. None of that is included in this kind of report. This is purely just what is generated from the state and the local property tax community. Totally. Does not include any of those other things. And it doesn't include any federal entitlements in this. That's completely separate. This is entirely just the state. So when you're going to select your report, the first one we're going to select is the Summary of Finance Report. You're going to select that, and then you're going to be able to select a school year, and I want you to select 2016-17. Let me make sure on that. I'm going to go back to your assignment and make sure I chose the right one. Yes. And the reason I'm asking you to select 2016-17 is because it has a final report. And a final report means that after the district has submitted all of its tax information, its student enrollment information, all of its instructional arrangement, the FTEs, every single thing that it clearly was in their PEIMS report, a final report will come out and say, okay, this is how much you actually generated, and you'll be credited for your school district. So let's find a school district here. So there's a couple of ways to do this. First of all, you may have noticed as I go back over here, I put the name of the district, but I also put what's called the county district number. Now, the county district number is a 6-digit number. You'll notice the first 3 numbers is the county number. The next 3 numbers is the district numbers. So I'll give you an example. Prosper ISD and Lovejoy ISD and Allen happen to have the same county number because they're all in Collin County. So that would make sense that they would have 043. But what would designate them as different is what is the district number. The district number would be 901. That's the actual district number. Now, the reason I've included that is because you want to make sure that you get the right district. For example, there's more than one Waco district. There's like a Waco charter. There's actually 2 Highland Parks in Texas. There's an Amarillo Highland Park, and there's a regular Highland Park that is in Dallas. So you want to make sure the county district number is correct with the district. So going back to that, I'm going to choose Lake Travis. And you'll notice Lake Travis will come up. For some reason, it also grabs some of my other information, but that's all right. So if I go Lake Travis ISD, I'm going to make sure, yeah, that's Lake Travis. I recognize the county district number. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to hit Submit. Now, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom because I want the final report that was put out for the district. Now, I want you to notice something a little bit interesting here, because those of you that are using other districts will notice that this number, this foundation allotment, is going to be a lot larger. Now, some of you might guess, why would this number, because the foundation allotment represents state funds, and you think, well, why would that number be so small? Well, the reason for that is Lake Travis is a very, very high property wealth district. Therefore, they get very little, in some cases, no state funds, or very minimal. These are probably for some type of facility allotments. But then you look over here and say, wow, they recapture $36 million, which means above and beyond what they generate locally through their tax rate, they're sending if I can read that a little closer, $36 million back to the state. So that's just kind of an interesting fact as you look at that. Well, what you're going to do next is download the PDF. So click on that. Now, of course, I'm using an Apple, so it's going to pop up automatically when it generates the report into my PDF document. Quit that right there. Well, it's taking some time. There we go. You'll see it goes up there, and here we go. We've got a report. Now, you'll notice in the report there's a lot of information. Now, this is where you're going to get the information to put into your assignment. So, for example, the first thing I'm going to ask you to get is what is the refined average daily attendance. 9312. That's the essentially what that means is every 6 weeks your district will submit the attendance reports for that 6 weeks, and it's done each 6 weeks, and then by the end of the year you're going to get an average daily attendance. And this is an important driver for our system. I also want to make sure you, as you saw in the instruction, use the final column here. There's only one exception to that I'll show you in just a moment. But you're going to go through this and utilize this information to fill in your document for your assignment. One exception that I was going to show you was down here under the special ed instructional arrangement. You'll notice there's two final columns here. I want you to use the final payment FTE column. I just noticed one other thing that I'll probably need you to pay attention to. When you're looking at these amounts right here, the career career tech FTEs, actually I'm going to change that and put in there, because really what I'm not looking as much for the FTEs as I'm looking for the amounts. So on all of these, I'm looking for the total amount of money that was generated for each of these areas versus an FTE. So I'm going to change that on your document. So make sure you don't use the FTE, but you look through the summary of finance and find where the total amount for career tech is listed. Because if you look right here, you notice that is an FTE count. That's not a dollar amount. But you'll be able to find that as you look through this one. You'll be able to find what the total dollar amount generated for career tech is. Maybe I can find it myself as I look through here. Let's see. There we go. CTE allotment right there is $3.3 million, and the GT is $303,000, and so forth. You'll see that there. So that's something I'll correct after I finish here. But go through that, use the summary of finance report, and get all your data plugged in here. Then when you submit the assignment, you're going to submit this, but I also want you to submit your summary of finance PDF document that you pulled up from TEA, so I can kind of look back and forth. If you've made any errors or something, I can show you where that would need to be, because these data points are going to be very important, as we're going to plug those into a template that I've created, which should help you with part 2 of this. The real strength of this part 1, or this whole project, is it really helps you see how the interplay of student population, property values, and tax rates cause this dynamic between local and state share. And it may even give you some better insight into a lot of the rhetoric that we hear now in regard to the school finance argument, in the fact that the state share is less and it's getting less every year. You'll start to get, I think, a better understanding of that. So those are the assignments. You've got perusal. You've got that content assignment, which is 4 questions total from chapters 9 and 10, and this Texas School Finance Project. So if you have any issues or questions you need me to help you out on, send me an email and I'll help you out with it. And I wish you good luck with this, and have a good couple of weeks. And if not, hopefully we will have a face-to-face video discussion on our next meeting time, which I believe is October 30th. Bye.